Hello everyone, Storm11 here. Today we'll be watching a storm system that'll be coming out of the several Rockies here that's going to bring several issues across parts of the central and eastern U.S. It's got winter storm potential, high wind, and also severe weather risk as well. So we'll be going over those risks as well, and also the uncertainty of the system as well. Before we get started on this video, if you guys would like weather-related content, you can subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here all the time on this channel. Plus, we'll be having more updates on the storm system as well over the next couple of days. So definitely stay tuned for that as well for more updates on the system as well. So we're gonna get started with the current alerts across the United States, and it's generally mostly quiet though. However, there is a decent amount, there's a pretty good snowfall event going on in parts of the Northeast. We even got a winter storm warning for, looks like a couple counties in central Virginia. Some of these areas are actually overperforming a little bit. The highest snowfall report I've heard was about 7 inches of snow in some of these areas in here. And there's still a little bit more snow to go. So some of those areas are certainly overperforming. That's certainly a good thing for some snow lovers up there if you guys do like it, snow up there. However, enjoy it while you can because we're going to see a pattern change later this week. So let's talk about our upcoming system here. But first, let's check out the storm prediction outlook. So this is day 4, which is Wednesday. We got a 15% slight risk for parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, in Louisiana. And that includes places like Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, Plano, and also Garlington, Texas as well. And then on day 5, which is Thursday, we do have a 15% slight risk for parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, parts of Tennessee, and also for the foothills of southeastern Missouri, far southwestern Kentucky, and also far eastern Texas as well. And all hazards are possible on all these days here as well. It's predictably too low on day 6, but there might be a possibility we could see a risk area get added somewhere, maybe in parts of the Carolinas, maybe up into parts of the Mid-Atlantic as well. So let's check out what some of the models are thinking about today. So there's your overperforming snowfall event going on for parts of Virginia, up into parts of Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. That system will be moving out tonight. And then here comes our storm system here. So this is Wednesday afternoon. We got 999 millibar low in northeastern New Mexico. You also do notice here in the United States here, we got the strong southwesterly wind here going on across really anywhere from the Southern Plains through parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, up into the Northeast as well. And also, closer to the isobars, stronger the winds are at the surface as well. So, for a good chunk of Northeast, you guys will likely see a mild surge of some milder air as well. We also got the strong low up in Canada, and this is the one that's going to bring in the cold air as what to set up for the system as well. So let's kind of go over into Wednesday night, I should say. So you got 999 millibar low over the Red River, or in other words, along the Oklahoma and Texas state border. Eventually, at this point here, it will begin to make a move a little bit more to the northeast as well. And the reason why it's not going to continue to move off to the east, because you got this ridge of high pressure that's out in the Atlantic here. You can tell by some of the isobars here that this high pressure system does cover parts of the Mid-Atlantic and the Carolinas as well, which is going to keep them nice, mild, and also dry as well. And that's also one of the main reasons why the Northeast is going to have some warmer air. Now, I'm not expecting this warm air to last very long, though, because as soon as the system here begins to pass, you guys will get another cold blast out of the system. Okay, now at this point here, this is where uncertainty begins to increase here. So we know there's going to be a low pressure system coming out of the Several Rockies, but there are going to be multiple factors here of the track of the low. And there are several factors in there. One of those factors is the Canadian high. The second factor is the Atlantic Ocean high. And also, how dense this cold air is it going to be as well. So with those 3 factors there, there's still plenty of uncertainty here and possibilities on the system here as well. If this Canadian high were to be stronger, it could take a more southern track. If it's weaker, it could take more of a northern track. Or the Atlantic high, if it were to be weaker, the system here could take more of a southern track. Or if it were to be stronger, it would take a more northern track. Or if the cold air is a little bit more denser than what models suggest, it can also take a more southern track as well. So there's still a lot of factors. And another factor as well is of how strong the low could be. If it's a little bit of a weaker low, it could take a more southern track. But if it's a stronger low, it could take a more northern track as well. So really, there's still a lot of uncertainty with this system here with tracker. Now, honestly, it doesn't really matter for areas in the parts of Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, parts of Arkansas, and Texas. It really doesn't matter what the track of the low for you folks down there. Either way, you guys are going to see a severe weather threat out of the system. But for areas a little further north, like Kentucky, parts of Indiana, Illinois, maybe including parts of Tennessee, it really depends, because if it takes more of a southern track, it decreases your severe weather potential. But if it goes further north, you got some of those higher dew point values that can go further up north as well. And this is a very similar situation for areas on the back side here, the low here, on the winter side of things. Because anywhere this low here is going to go here, all the snow here, sleet and freeze rain is going to go along with it as well. So in reality, there's still a lot of uncertainty with the system here. Even though we're just a few days away, there's still plenty of uncertainty here. The GFS is probably the strongest one out of the rest of the models currently. You can see here, really by later in the day here, this low pressure system begins to move very quickly here. So for some areas in here, the snow here is not going to last very long here. Even though your snow shield is very large here, it's still not going to last very long here as well. And you can see here, unfortunately for snow lovers to the northeast, with a northern track of the low, most of the northeast may miss out on this big snow here. However, wherever that low pressure system begins to move out of the way, you do see a cold blast move in. Any leftover moisture here could transition over to snow as well. Regardless, though, it's going to be pretty windy as well. You can probably tell already with the isobars, they're all pretty close together. So it's going to be quite a wind maker up there as well. Let's check out the Canadian model. And I will say that this model here is much further south here. So we're going to stop here really by Thursday evening. So our high pressure system here is a little bit weaker, surprisingly enough. But at the same time, though, even though our Arctic high is a little bit weaker, our low is also weaker as well. It's a 1,002 millibar low at this point here. The GFS will be a little bit faster, and with a bit of a faster low and a stronger low, it's going to take a more northern track. But if it's weaker and slower, it's going to take a much more southern track as well. So that's something that should be noted as well. Even you also have to pay attention to the intensity of the low as well. Now, I will say that the Canadian model does typically handle better with the cold air, so this could be a little bit more of an accurate run. But honestly, this might be a little bit far south with my taste. But hey, it's a possibility as well. Certainly cannot word that out. But eventually, as it continues to move off to the northeast, it does begin to intensify as well. 995 millibar loads, almost dropping a millibar per hour. And you see here it continues to move off to the northeast. It's certainly a big wind maker. It's also got a lot of snow on the backside of the system as well. So I would not necessarily say that the winter storm threat is going to miss the northeast just yet, because of that potential factor that the low might be a little bit weaker as well. So that's a scenario number 2 for the Canadian model. And the European model is kind of in between, I would say, here. So if we check out the latest European model run here, you do notice here, if we go to right by 0Z on Friday here, it's actually a little bit faster with the low as well, but it's also got a weaker high as well. 1,028 millibar high. That's weaker, so it will take a more northwestward tracker, but it's also moving faster as well at the same time. Even though it's a weaker low, it's all at the same time it's moving faster. So it will take a more northern track here. But either way though, doesn't matter with the track here, the low, it's still gonna bring some major impacts out there. If it's gonna be a lot of snow or it may be quite a bit of wind for some areas. So either way, this is going to bring some big impacts there out of the system here. We know that the system's going to bring severe weather, a lot of wind, and even potentially a winter storm. We just don't know what the track of the low is going to go because that really matters for so many areas out there as well. That's what we don't really know yet. But in this range, it's good to look at the Gfs Ensembles. This kind of gives you a little bit better idea. And honestly, it kind of takes a little bit more of a, I would say, some of the models are more with the European model, and there's some other ones that are with the GFS. So if we kind of take this into 0Z on Thursday, you kind of tell here for some of these models here. Some of the models are faster, some of them are slower. And then again, still big differences here, but you kind of tell your factors are. If it's a faster and stronger low, it's further north. But if it's a weaker low and a little bit slower, it's further south. Because over time, that cold air is going to continue to move south a little bit over time. And we'll have to pause at one point wherever that low passes. But really, mostly over time, that Arctic air is going to continue to move south. It's got nowhere else to go but move south and east at that point as well. So then again, still a lot of uncertainty with the system here as well. But either way here, you can tell by most of the model members here, they do have at least quite a bit of snow on the backside of the low as well. So that winter storm potential is still around, even though the track of the low might have changed as well. So let's kind of check out a little bit more on the severe weather side of things. Let's actually check out the GFS Ensembles first. So what I want to check out here is if we go to convective, I want to check out the mean superset composite here. And you can see here, really in the green areas here, that's where you do have the potential risk for some severe weather. Especially when you get into the yellow colors, which you can see here. It's a little bit further south there. In the parts of Mississippi, Alabama, really by Thursday here. But really, I would pay attention to areas in the green here for that potential risk of some severe weather as well, which you can see here really getting into the overnight hours on Thursday. That severe weather risk does continue to move off to the northeast and does include parts of the Carolinas and maybe in the parts of the mid-Atlantic as well. Here's another thing we can use here, and this is the probability of at least 1,000 joules per kilogram instability. Now, I will say the models tend to be underdone when it comes to instability values this far out. And you do notice here, the percentages are pretty low. They're certainly pretty low. About a 10% chance of at least 1,000 joules per kilogram. Honestly, I do believe it's going to be higher, so I think these percentages are going to be higher. I could definitely see some areas getting at least 1,000 joules per kilogram CAPE, but it may not be very widespread. It might be more isolated, scattered in nature. But I do think some of the highest instability values out of all of these days is probably going to be early on because there is that chance for a cap in the parts of Texas and Oklahoma, especially when you got a drought going on further out west. It does help cap some events as well, but at some point, the models do agree on that it may break into the overnight hours, so that's something else that should be noted as well. So you can see here for GFS Ensembles, they're not very impressed here, but honestly, I think the risk is going to be higher than what they are showing. So let's move on to the GFS model. Let's look into the upper level wind. So we're at 500 millibars. So at this point in time here, so this is 1 o'clock. I think this is 12 p.m. for Central Time. And we do have a neutral tilt trough. And what's interesting with the GFS model, especially with the first day of the severe weather event, which is Wednesday, if we move on to 5 o'clock here, and later on the night, it tries to become a little bit more negatively tilted, which you can see it right here. Here's your low pressure system in the parts of the panhandle of Texas that will move into southwestern Oklahoma. And then here's 12 o'clock here. And then at this point here, it takes a little bit more of a negative tilt trough as well at this point here. And typically with negatively tilt troughs, they do increase your severe weather risk as well. But eventually when we get into Thursday, let's actually stick with Wednesday for now so we don't make a whole lot of confusion. The European model is a little bit slower, but also has a negatively tilt trough look as well. So honestly, I think the risk for severe weather, at least confidence-wise, is probably higher for the first day or Wednesday night for parts of Oklahoma and Texas. There's a lot of divergence going on here as well, which is going to help increase that lift mechanism. Here's 850 millibars. This is where you kind of see your wind shear. And you can see here, there's going to be a lot of wind shear out there, no doubt about it. This is going to be a wind shear maker for sure. Here's the GFS model. It's pretty similar here. Either way, there's going to be a lot of wind shear with this system here. There certainly will be with the system here. It's also going to be a decent wind maker as well. On the backside of the low, you do get some strong wind gusts on the backside of it as well. Here's the GFS model with a slightly stronger low. It's going to have some stronger wind gusts at the surface as well. It does make some sense. If we look at rain and thunder, though, here's your thunderstorm activity going on across parts of Oklahoma and Texas. This is when the cap probably begins to break around this point. And here's the European model. Shows pretty much the very similar thing as well. Let's also check them instability values, which European models are not very impressed, but it is enough for severe weather. With the type of environment that we are seeing here, even between 500 and 1,000 joules per kilogram of instability, it's still favorable for severe weather either way. And the GFS model is pretty similar as well, but a little bit further north. But then again, these medium range model guidance do tend to be underdone when it comes to instability values this far out. So that's something that should be noted as well. But either way, even if they're overdone or not, it's still a favorable environment for severe weather. If we do see an uptrend with instability values, that does increase your severe weather risk as well. Because the wind shear what we got in this environment, it's pretty high. It certainly is out there. And it gets higher than that into Thursday as well. And let's lastly check out the dew points as well. This is another important ingredient when it comes to severe weather. It's got the 60 dew point line going as far north as the Red River as well. So then again, a favorable environment here from the weather models out there. And here's the European model. It's pretty similar with it as well. So definitely seems like a favorable environment for severe weather. So an area I would definitely pay attention to for the severe weather risk Wednesday night, probably southeastern Oklahoma, northeastern Texas, parts of southwestern Arkansas, and probably into parts of western Louisiana as well. I would definitely watch this area in here for that severe weather potential as well, which is similar to where the storm predictor has placed it, which I definitely do agree with it as well. All right, let's begin to move on to Thursday. So we're going to go back to 500 millibars with winds. And let's go to about 3 o'clock. And you definitely notice here the low is starting to move very quickly here. But also at the same time, we got more of a positively tilt trough at this point. Now, honestly, it doesn't really matter what type of trough it is. It doesn't matter if it's positively tilt, negatively tilt, or neutrally tilt. It still has a threat for severe weather. We've seen what happened with the December 10th and 11th tornado outbreak that hit pretty hard in southwestern Kentucky. That was a positively tilt trough event. So it doesn't really matter. However, when you have a negatively tilt trough, it does increase your severe weather risk. So there's at least some good news anyway with this up here that this is going to be more of a positive tilt trough. But either way, it's still a favorable environment for severe weather. Something also do notice here that there's not a whole lot of divergence going on here with Thursday's setup here. There's not too much divergence going on here. Here's the GFS model here with a little bit of a stronger low. It's a little bit further north. And let's also check out the wind shear at 850 millibars. There's going to be plenty of wind shear. The wind shear environment can get us a favorable wind shear environment gets as far south as the Gulf Coast. So we can see this severe weather risk from the Gulf Coast all the way up to possibly as far north as Tennessee. And you also got a lot of wind shear to work with out in the Carolinas already, with some good wind shear out there as well. And here's the European model, and it's a little bit stronger with the wind shear as well, or that low of a jet. It's got some of the strongest a little bit further north, which is no surprise. But either way, there's going to be plenty of wind shear out there, no doubt about it. Okay, here's what it looks like in precipitation mode, and this is going to be a limiting factor. Okay, this could be anyway a limiting factor. You got all of this shower thunderstorm activity. If it stays widespread, that could help decrease the instability potential. But if we do see a decreased coverage in showers and thunderstorms, that's not really a good thing because all it's doing, that's going to help increase those instability values, and any isolated storm has potential to become significant. Now, with widespread shower and thunderstorm activity, it helps limit that instability value. So, and there also might be that one point where, hey, with the wind shear that we're seeing out of the setup, if the instability values stay very low, there's a chance that the wind shear may be too strong for the environment, and it might actually shear storms apart. That's something we haven't seen in a long time. I honestly don't know when was the last time we've seen that happen before, but it is certainly possible. But honestly, I do believe here there's going to be a little bit more instability out there. So honestly, the possibility of that is low. However, the potential for widespread shower thunderstorm activity is still out there as well. It's higher than wind shearing out storms potential out there. Here's the GFS model, and it's actually a little bit more organized here with that line of thunderstorms, which takes us all the way up into central Kentucky with that line of storms as well. And let's see. Let's check out the dew points. Really, in this type of range here, I'll have to pay more attention to the dew points. So, anytime we have at least 60 dew points, you're in pretty decent environment for severe weather. With the GFS with a stronger low, it's able to help pull those instability values or more of that severe weather threat further up north, which in this case here, it's got a 60 dew point value up in as far north as parts of southern Kentucky. The European model, on the other hand, oh yeah, I forgot to say this. By the way, the European model run that we've been looking on here is actually the 0Z run. That's something I forgot to say of what we've been looking on here. So that's something that should be noted as well. But honestly, either way, it's a very similar run here. The only difference here between the European model run, the one we're looking at on Pitiful Weather, which is 12Z, and this run here, it's slightly northwest. So honestly, there's not much of a big difference between these two. That's something I forgot to say earlier on. But anyway, it's also got that favorable environment a little bit further up north as well, which is interesting as well. It's got a dew point at 62 up as far north as Bowling Green, Kentucky as well. So it really didn't get it. It all depends on how far north this low can get. The further north the low, the further north the severe weather risk can get. So really for areas and parts of Kentucky, even in parts of Indiana and Illinois, it's kind of a wild card for your severe weather potential on the setup here as well. But we'll definitely be keeping an eye on it as well. If we check instability values, and then again, I think this ball here is an underdump, but even with the widespread activity, I think there's still going to be some higher amounts out there. Here's the GFS. It keeps the greatest instability a little bit first out, but that's what happens. We got not as much coverage when it comes to showers and thunderstorms. You get higher instability values, so it does make a little bit more sense. It's even got a spot of 1,000 joules per kilogram northeastern Louisiana, or southeastern Louisiana, I should say. And oh yeah, talking about that wind risk at the surface. If we go to 1 o'clock here, check out these wind gusts across parts of northern Alabama up into Kentucky, nearing 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Now, honestly, I do believe it's a little bit overdone with those wind gusts. However, last time I checked on Pivotal Weather for the wind gusts, which is in a little bit more detail or a little bit more in higher resolution, it's actually spinning out wind gusts 60 to 65. So honestly, I do believe it's a little bit overdone, but it really depends on how strong the low is going to be. Stronger the low, stronger the winds at the surface is going to be. It also does lean towards higher wind shear values as well when you typically have a stronger low. Here's a European model with a weaker low. It's not as impressed with it, I will certainly say, as well. And then we kind of move on to Thursday night into Friday morning. So getting into Thursday night here, your severe weather risk kind of pushes a little bit further to the east. So this is 3 o'clock in the morning, which honestly already at this point here, actually we still got a pretty good low of a jet in the area here. Now since it's the overnight hours, I think instability is going to be a limiting factor on this one here as well, since it's going to be happening overnight hours. If we do check out dew points though, there's still some good dew points out there as well. But we'll keep an eye on this setup here as well. Really, it should move out in the mid-Atlantic by the early morning hours. So we'll also have to keep an eye on the mid-Atlantic and the Carolinas as well. And going back to the wind threat, if we back this up a little bit, check out what the Gfs Model is spinning out for wind gusts for up north. That's certainly on the higher end as well. If you check out the European model, which is a weaker low, then again, the wind gusts are certainly a little bit lower. But either way, these wind gusts are strong enough to cause some issues up there as well. So that's certainly another threat we need to keep an eye on as well. So I want to backtrack really quickly here before we end the video. Is on the winter side of things. And we'll check out the Gfs Ensembles for the mean snowfall accumulation, which you can see here where we do see our winter storm potential. It stretches from parts of northern Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas, through central Missouri, parts of Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, northern Ohio, and it continues up into parts of Canada, but it's even got some decent mean snowfall accumulation amounts into parts of Maine, northern New Hampshire and Vermont, and even for parts of New York as well. So we also got to keep an eye on that winter storm potential as well. But anyways, guys, this is all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit the like button. If you do like my channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put in the comment section down below. Alright, so guys, questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye, and have a good day.